Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Let's Dev, where today we're continuing to work on our long-term open-ended survival RPG. The last time we started working on the hunting feature inspired by Warframe's hunting feature. This included a starting point marked by some poop, a trail of footsteps leading to the target, and the target itself, in all its orange derpy goodness. While not the craziest of feats, it was a significant endeavor primarily because it was the first time I attempted to use nested arrays with DS lists. Luckily, the attempt was a success, meaning new possibilities have opened up for us in the future. So, how can we possibly follow up such a successful step forward in our development? Well, today we'll be attempting to improve the quality of our footprint trails. That's it. I was actually pretty bothered by the lack of variety in our trail generation, so we're focusing 100% of today's session on trying to make some improvements. And maybe if there's any time left, we'll also work on the actual hunting targets as well. So let's not waste any more time and get to the coding. First up was changing the way we generated our destinations. That's right, I said destinations as in multiple, because that's how grammar be working, yo. Currently our path is determined by a single destination point. The way GameMaker's pathfinding algorithm works, by default at least, is that it determines the fastest route possible to said destination. This often means if diagonal movement is allowed, it'll take a straight line from point A to point B if it can. And it's just not very natural for what we're trying to accomplish. So instead, we're gonna generate multiple points. These will act as joints between trails that together will create a single much longer trail. This will hopefully add diversity and enough length to our trails to make them more exciting to follow. So first we need a path position variable. Next was the addition of extra points to the destination code. I decided to go with an array. A DS list might have also done the trick, but using an array to record multiple X and Y coordinates seemed like a more simple option. So with that all now set up, our pathing code would also need some tweaking. In the step code, the crawler would move through the list of points stored in the array that we just made. Once the crawler reaches that point, the next destination is queued and the crawler continues moving until it reaches the final destination in the array, to which it then deletes itself and spawns the actual target. These changes to the code definitely altered the crawler's pathing output, sometimes in funny ways, while other were quite confusing. The important thing was that the paths now at least had variety and rarely ever consisted of one long straight line to the end. However, not all was great, as sometimes the crawler would destroy itself at the end of the path but not spawn the target. To make sure the trail wouldn't go off screen, I restricted the crawler to stay within the boundaries of the room. I then realized I forgot to check that the crawler actually reached the final point and not just in value. However, the main culprit seemed to be the trail reaching the edge of the room and just not knowing what to do. Also, sometimes the crawler would just spawn and not move at all. The cause of this was quite the mystery, and instead of getting to the bottom of that mystery, I put on my game dev hat and simply coded a workaround to prevent both issues from occurring. A stuck variable was added, and in its step event, if the crawler is recorded in the same spot for 2 frames, that must mean it's stuck. And if that happens, the stuck variable starts counting. Once it's been stuck long enough, the crawler rerolls its list of destinations. And just in case the edges of the room still caused errors, the code would then check for the point position. And if the crawler was far enough through its list that it makes a decent trail, then we'd settle for the consolation prize by spawning the target there. And as far as I can tell, this solved both our issues perfectly. So while the crawler would sometimes still get stuck, that no longer prevented it from at least serving its purpose halfway. The sad reality though is, despite creating more varied trails, they still lack the personality. For example, adding even more randomness to the destinations just created weirder, often circular paths which look kinda cool but weren't very logical. It's likely that to get a more varied but still logical path would require more dice rolls, not for more joints, but to simply determine the path's trajectory. Still, the current results are more lively than last time, and so with just a little time left in the session, I decided to make some quick tweaks to the hunting target. With so little time left, I simply wanted to make the targets mortal. Using our usual hurt check code, including the flash effect, the hunting target would lose health when coming in contact with the player's arrows. And to simplify things, at least for the time being, instead of having those arrows stick to the target, they are destroyed. And once the target has been destroyed, the trail and the starting poop no longer serve a purpose, and so they are also destroyed. And that's sadly all the time I had for today. Again, while a lot wasn't accomplished, sometimes in game dev you end up spending a lot of time on things that seem really small. But considering how important the trail is to this feature, it wasn't time wasted. Again, there's a lot of avenues for us to go down if we want to up the quality of the trails in the future, but the important thing is, in general, we made some improvements to the original code. Remember, you have to stay positive in your coding endeavors. Always try to find the silver lining. Anyway, with that said comes the end of today's episode of Let's Dev. So leave a like if you enjoyed the episode, subscribe and turn on notifications if you haven't already, and leave your thoughts on our progress in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.